This G20, as you well know, is meeting for the very first time on African soil, and we as South Africa are truly honored and privileged to be the first country on the continent to be hosting the G20.
Welcome back to Africa Speaks, where we tell African stories through our own lenses and with our own voice. So today we are just going to reflect on a truly historical, a moment that resonated across the continent, pride and purpose. Because for the very first time in history, the G20 Leaders Summit was hosted on an African soil right here in South Africa.
From every corner of the earth, people are returning to this place, the cradle of humanity, to reflect on the state of our world and to chart a way forward to a more inclusive and a more prosperous and more sustainable future, which through your presence I'd like to believe you have been doing, returning to where we all originated, and to come and draw from the wisdom that resides in this continent.
And what an extraordinary milestone it was. A defining moment, a clear statement of Africa's rising influence on the global stage. Because across the world, analysts, both African and international, are describing this as one of the most impactful G20 summits in the recent years. And this is not because the circumstances of the summit were perfect, but because South Africa remained steady, Africa spoke with clarity, and the world had no choice but to pay attention and listen. And let's begin with the host of the summit, President Cyril Ramaphosa. This man really deserves the recognition that he's getting. Because despite the pressure, the political noise, the attempts to undermine Africa's moment on the global stage, President Cyril Ramaphosa remained calm, steady, and resolute.
All guests who are gathered here,
уважаемые гости, которые собрались в этом зале.
It is an honor and a privilege
Это честь и
to
привилегия
welcome you
для меня
as South
приветствовать
Africa to this very
вас в
first
Южной Африке на самый
G20
первый
Leaders Summit to be
саммит
held on
G20,
African soil.
который состоялся на африканской
We
земле.
gather here at
Мы
the cradle of
собрались
humanity
здесь, в колыбели
in
человечества,
Africa
в Африке,
to affirm our
для того, чтобы
common humanity.
подтвердить нашу общую
We gather here
человечность.
to affirm
Здесь
the
мы
value of
собрались для того,
partnership
чтобы
and
подтвердить ценность
cooperation,
сотрудничества и взаимодействия,
to finding
для того,
common
чтобы
solutions
найти общие решения
to shared problems.
наших общих проблем.
Shortly before the dawn of
Вскоре
democracy
после рассвета
in South
демократии
Africa,
в Южной Африке,
the father of our democracy,
отец нашей демократии,
Nelson Mandela, said,
Нельсон Мандела, сказал:
"The time has come for South Africa to take up its rightful and responsible place in the
заняла
community
свое
of
место
nations."
в сообществе стран.
Today,
То место, которое ей причитается
as we
сегодня,
open this G20 Leaders Summit,
саммит лидеров группы
South
20,
Africa is
Южная
deeply
Африка
aware of the profound
хорошо
responsibility
осведомлена о
that
той глубокой ответственности,
membership of
которую
the
несут для себя
community of
члены и
nations
сообщества
places
государств,
upon us.
и которые
When the United States chose to boycott, following the unfounded claims by President Trump about alleged attacks on white South Africans, President Ramaphosa neither panicked nor waved. He didn't apologize, he simply led, upholding the dignity of South Africa and the continent. And that light-hearted moment at the closing ceremony when he joked about the absence of the US from the summit.
I now say that this Gavel of this G20 summit formally closes this summit and now moves on to the next president of the G20, which is the United States, where we shall see each other again next year. The summit is therefore closed.
It was powerful. It showed confidence. It showed that South Africa did not need to beg for validation. The summit went on successfully with or without Washington in the room. And that is what principle-led Pan-African leadership looks like. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. or rather, let me say, the elephant that did not enter the room. So the United States did not attend the summit. Russia's President Putin was unable also to participate due to the ICC warrant, and China's president also did not attend the summit. But despite these notable absences from the summit, and with countries like Argentina and Mexico sending representatives instead of head of states, the summit remained strong, focused, and productive. Because what became clear is this: Africa did not falter because global powers were missing from the summit. If anything, their absence actually created space for Africa's voice to take center stage, and Africa rose to the moment with confidence and clarity. Now, family, we have to talk about one of the most unforgettable moments of the summit. And this is the speech by Namibia's President, Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. My goodness. Because this woman stood on the global stage and reminded the world, especially the Western countries, that Africans are not beggars, and that partnership does not mean superiority. It means respect, it means equality, it means treating Africa like the powerful and capable region it is.
If our financial architecture is not fit for the purpose, we will continue to see the pressure of a looming global debt crisis that intensified imbalance between developed and developing countries. We are not seeking for free money. We want a fair and equal financing opportunities. For Namibia to grow and industrialize our economy, Namibia is welcoming investors to invest on value addition at source for our natural resources, including critical minerals, to yield a broad-based benefit for all our people. To leave no one behind, countries must mobilize adequate resources for development, apply responsible debt management, and safeguard resources for essential social and economic programs such as education, health, and infrastructures. Namibia urges the G20 leaders to strengthen debt treatment framework by providing concessional financing to countries that demonstrate commitment to sound debt management and to be innovative in strengthening others. As we strive towards reducing inequality within and among countries, fair taxation, financial inclusion, and social protection are essential tools.
Another refreshing part of this summit was the leaders from outside Africa echoed the call for. Italy's Prime Minister delivered a strong message about partnerships, fixing imbalance in global development, about the West needing to approach Africa with humility and respect.
A pragmatic balance must be found between the need to limit emissions and the risk of compromising the most advanced productive systems and preventing the weaker ones from establishing themselves. In our opinion, the challenge is to affirm the principle of technological neutrality, because there is no single solution capable of quickly building a solid alternative to fossil fuel supplies. Our goal is not to create dependency. Our goal is to support self-sufficiency, because we believe in dignity of people, we believe in the freedom of nations, and we believe in the strength of genuine partnerships. Thank you, Mr. President.
The French President, Emmanuel Macron, also spoke boldly about equality, that the world cannot continue with systems where some countries dominate and others are told to wait quietly at the back. When African leaders speak their truth and global leaders echo it, that's a sign that the world is shifting. And now, my favorite part of the entire summit, because traditionally the G20 host hands over the ceremonial gavel to the next host. Like South Africa hosted the G20 summit this year, right? Next year, the summit will be in the United States. But guess what happened? Because the United States chose to boycott and send only junior staff members, and because their embassy hadn't had an ambassador for months, South Africa refused to hand over the gavel.
I now say that this gavel of this G20 summit formally closes this summit and now moves on to the next president of the G20, which is the United States, where we shall see each other again next year. The summit is therefore closed.
That is Africa saying, we are done playing games. We are done being disrespected. If you want show up, we won't pretend. It was symbolic. It was a powerful one. And it showed the world that Africa is not a continent of yesterday. Africa is standing up. Africa is speaking up. And Africa is leading. Despite the absences, despite the politics, despite the pressure, the summit was successful, it was focused, it was unified and boldly African. The declaration was adopted, partnerships were strengthened, Africa's priority, climate, minerals, debt relief, development equity were placed at the center. This was Africa showing that we do not need permission to lead. We don't need validation to organize. We don't need presence of every global superpower to make history. Africa showed up for itself, and that is what matters. This G20 wasn't just a meeting. It was a moment, a message, a milestone. It told the world that Africa is not a spectator. Africa is not a charity case. Africa is not a side conversation. Africa is the table. Africa is the agenda, and Africa is the future. And as long as this mic is on, as long as Africa speaks, exists, we will continue telling our stories loudly, proudly, and unapologetically. Africa has spoken, and the world is listening. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode.